Welcome to your IELTS listening practice from Spinta.org. This is a mini-test designed to help you practice a specific section of the exam and improve your confidence. The recording will be played one time only, just like in the official test. Let's begin.
Today we're going to explore one of the most intriguing, controversial, and debated ideas in the fields of linguistics and psychology. It's a question that gets to the very heart of what it means to be human. Does the language you speak shape the way you think? This idea is most famously captured in what is known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. In simple terms, it's the idea that our language provides a kind of filter or lens through which we perceive and understand the world. The hypothesis is generally divided into two versions, a strong one and a weak one. The strong version is known as linguistic determinism. It's a very radical idea. It argues that language completely dictates and limits our thought processes. Our cognitive categories, our very ability to think about certain things, are determined by the categories available in our language. So, according to this view, if a language has no word for a particular idea, its speakers are simply incapable of understanding that concept. It suggests thought is impossible without language. As you can imagine, this version is almost universally rejected by modern linguists. The weak version, known as linguistic relativity, is much more widely accepted and researched today. It doesn't say language traps us in a mental prison, but rather that it influences our thinking, our memory, and our perception. The language we speak can nudge us to pay attention to certain details and ignore others. For example, the way a language describes space and direction, whether it uses terms like left and right, or fixed cardinal points like north and south, can make its speakers habitually better at certain navigational tasks. Let's look at some of the evidence. A classic, though now somewhat disputed example, was the idea that Inuit languages have dozens of words for snow. A more compelling and testable piece of modern evidence comes from color perception. For instance, the Russian language has two distinct basic words for what English speakers just call blue. Goluboy, for light blue, and sini, for dark blue. In experiments, Russian speakers are measurably faster at distinguishing between different shades of blue that cross this linguistic boundary than English speakers are. Their language has trained them to make this distinction more readily. However, there is also strong evidence against the deterministic version. We can clearly think about things we don't have a single word for. Think of that feeling of a word being on the tip of your tongue. And even in languages that reportedly have no grammatical future tense, its speakers can still talk about, plan for, and understand the future. They just express it differently, perhaps by saying I go to the market tomorrow, instead of I will go. So where does this leave us? The general consensus today among linguists and cognitive scientists is that while the strong prison house version of the hypothesis is incorrect, the weak version of the hypothesis has some clear validity. Language doesn't imprison our minds, but it does provide us with a set of cognitive tools, and the specific tools that our language gives us can shape the way we work with information. The original hypothesis was famously developed by the amateur linguist Benjamin Whorf, based on his studies of the language of the Hopi people of North America in the 1930s. He made the radical claim that the Hopi language had no words, no grammatical constructions, no expressions that referred to what we call time. From this, he concluded they must have a different conception of time itself, one that was cyclical and not linear like ours. This specific claim has been heavily criticized and largely debunked since, but it was the idea that sparked the whole debate. A more modern and perhaps more extreme example that has fascinated linguists is the language of the Piraha tribe in the Brazilian Amazon. Their language is fascinating because it appears to lack what many consider to be linguistic universals. Crucially for this discussion, their language has no specific words for numbers. They use only general terms like few or many. As a result, members of the tribe seem to struggle with tasks that require precise numerical quantification, which supports the idea that a linguistic tool can foster a cognitive skill. Another interesting area of research is grammatical gender. In languages like French, Spanish, or German, every noun has a gender. A bridge might be masculine, a key might be feminine. Studies suggest this can have subtle effects on thought. For instance, German speakers asked to describe a bridge, which is feminine in their language, die Brücke, might use words like beautiful, elegant, or slender. In contrast, Spanish speakers, for whom el puente is masculine, might say strong or long. It seems the grammatical gender can lead to associating objects with gender stereotypes. This isn't just an academic curiosity. It can have practical implications. In the world of international business and marketing, for example, understanding that different language speakers might categorize the world and attach different connotations to objects can be crucial. It's particularly useful when developing more effective advertising campaigns, which often rely on subtle cultural and linguistic associations to be successful. To conclude, the relationship between our language and our thoughts is not a simple one-way street where language controls thought, nor is language a mere vessel for pre-existing thoughts. Instead, the evidence from the last few decades points to a complex interaction that is still being actively studied. Language shapes thought, and thought in turn shapes the language we use. They are deeply and fascinatingly intertwined in ways we are only just beginning to fully appreciate.
You have now completed the practice test. When you are ready for a full exam experience, visit us at Spinta.org. There you will find complete mock tests for all 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Our platform provides instant AI feedback for your speaking and writing tasks, along with an accurate prediction of your band score. Take control of your preparation at Spinta.org.